For the bad guys who profit from all this, it's become easier.
So let's get back to the government point. Do you think that governments don't learn from their mistakes?
That's if one thing is true, that is very true. Because as I work with some of them, it is not because they're good or bad or anything like that. They don't do that because governments, like big companies, are very big, right? Change a culture takes a long time. It's expedient to get things done the way they are, just improve a little bit. You see an incremental thing. But meanwhile, the governments, if you think about it, that you're one citizen in any country, whether in Canada, Egypt, in UK, in US, just an example of a bank, and then I'll take it to the government. If you're at a bank, you have a credit card, a debit card, a mortgage, a loan from the bank. You might have investment savings from the bank. You might have 5-6 different dealings with them, right? You got a car and you taken a loan from them, whatever. Now, is it the one person in the bank dealing with you, or is it multiple people dealing with you?
It's a lot of people dealing with me.
Exactly. You're one customer, one set of information. Your home address doesn't change. Your name doesn't change, your date of birth doesn't change, the money you're earning, yet you got so many different people from there dealing with you that they don't share the information, but they collect it 5 times from you, right?
Okay, so from this point we can say that they are working in isolated islands.
That's correct. Silos. His island is absolutely correct. It's, the reason we're calling them silos here is that they are really individual. If you think about it, I get a birth certificate from the government when born through the hospital. I have a passport. I may have registration for my car, the driver's license, all this different. Yet these are different ministries and they don't share the same database. Okay? They have different databases, which means now there's 6 times the chance the crook has got to get into your data, right?
We are talking here about developed countries like United States, which suffered loads of data breaches. Do you think that they are not capable of defending their infrastructure, or are there any other reasons?
I think there's 2-3 reasons. Like when you think about any type of fraud that happens when the data is compromised, it's not compromised because somebody wants to just have fun and collect the information. Data is compromised so they can use it to commit fraud, right? So they can make money out of that. They can do all sorts of different things. So the question that becomes is, okay, if that is the approach, where would you go? If I'm a bad guy and I got to think like that, if I'm going to stop them, is where would I go first? I would go where anything I can collect is going to turn into a lot of money for me, right? Or my organization. So US, yes, would get attacked because there's a lot of information. But it's not a lot of information just for the Americans, because they collect a lot of information about other people. Right? So then you can, if you attack them, you'll get information about UK and Canada and
Egypt too.
Yeah, Egypt and I mean, I joke about it many times that if you don't have your backup failed, go ask US, they might have a backup, right?
Okay, so let's turn to the Middle East. Governments in the region are suffering daily from data breaches, website defacement, and even cyber espionage. What is the main reason behind this?
I think there are 2-3 good reasons. Same as it started here many years ago, is that if you look at it in Middle East overall, there's a lot of natural resources that are very rich in oil, right? There's also political stuff going on. When I say, I mean country to country. So if I can find out what Egypt is thinking, I can find out what Saudi Arabia is thinking, I can find out what Iran is thinking, I can find out what Turkey is thinking. I could be whoever, right? Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be US. It could be China. It could be Russia. It could be whoever, Japan, the African country. Then I'm placed well in A, my negotiations with them, and B, in trying to take advantage of that. Because it's like if I go into a negotiation with you, you don't know what I want and I don't know what you want. So I have to have that discussion on the table. But can you imagine if I was able to get into your system to find out exactly what you're thinking? I can negotiate in a manner because I know what your weak point is, right? And therefore I can deal from there. So that's one part. The second part is all this information that is being collected by bad guys. Some just copycat guys, they do stupid things, not because they know any better, but just they can do it.
So you are talking here about script kiddies.
Yeah, there is a group like that. Hey, look what I've just done. And a lot of them are university students who are saying, what do you mean I can't do this? I will show you. And they're bright guys. They don't know any boundaries. They can turn around and do things and they will try. Then you got the other group who might go up to them and saying, hey, I know this is useless information. Sell it to me. I'll give you some money. You want to study, you want to do well, here's the money. So they sell that information, and that information can be very, very useful from a business standpoint, from an economical standpoint.
We know that governments are trying to collect a lot of information. They are looking for big data or to install surveillance solutions. Do you think this is gonna work like this?
Yes. There's 2-3 things, I think, right off the bat, without drilling all the way in and giving away any secrets. The thing is, 2-3 things that are very relevant. Governments, first of all, like I said earlier, they're storing a lot of information. They need to store because they're going to service the citizens of any country. They need all the information about you, about what you do, about your date of birth, about your whatever, so they can. So I think when we talk about big data and all that and the other, it's not big data, small data, it's data. It's just a question of understanding the behavior, right? I know that the guys who are selling tools keep talking about the fact that, it's big data and buy my solution and your problem will be solved. There is no such thing in life, never was and never will be. It is actually behavior, which means analytic.
In regards to solutions, I think that governments are using off-the-shelf technologies, which may make things worse.
Well, you're being very polite when you're saying it may. Actually, it does. It does. So I'll tell you why I said that. Recently, an example came up. Little dolls that you buy for your kids, right? Where you talk to the dolls in whatever language and they respond back. So people were telling me that there's a little tape recorder or whatever in there, and I kept saying no, there is no tape recorder. And what we now know for a fact is the case that there is a Wi-Fi type device, right? A wireless device. So when you talk to it's awake called 24 hours. When you talk to it, it starts to respond. The response is not coming from the doll. It's coming from their headquarters. I won't name the city. You'll know where it's coming from. But I know this particular company does it. And so that means that mic is on all the time in that little doll. So it's true that the kids can play with it and they say, okay, sing a song, and the doll will sing a song. It's because somebody is listening at the back to say, oh, she asked for it. And so fact that mic is on, is it possible that the doll is sitting here and you and I are talking about very confidential stuff, but they can listen to everything?
So using these hacking solutions like Hacking Team Scandal and other surveillance technology will be like governments are asking for troubles?
Very good question. It's done 2-3. So you don't use a off-the-shelf solution. Like you remember for PCI, one of the so that we had done same thing when we were designing that thing, is saying if you buy off-the-shelf, you could be asking for trouble. That's no longer allowed. You have to, when you customize it, you better put all the security around it. So in their case, what they need to do is first, before they go to the solution, they have to look at what is my need, what is my problem. So the problem is that there's a lot of information out there, whether it's telephone calls that they can trap, whether it's internet communication they can trap, emails they can trap, Facebook, LinkedIn. So there are many different ways of capturing that information, okay? That's one part. Then you got the location ID tracking, which tells you exactly where I'm moving, and you're plotting all this, right? You don't need to have this solution from somewhere else. You can build it yourself. You can take some existing thing that's available, but you can customize it so that you handle it your way.
Do you think that we should implement policies and regulation in regards to using technology and cybersecurity solutions?
Very, very good question. If you think about, and I just use PCI or Sarbanes-Oxley or Patriot, or any of them, but I'll just use PCI as an example. Why did we put PCI in there, right? We put PCI to stop the fraud, to prevent the data compromise, and then to prevent the fraud and all the costs, because this money could be equally going to terrorists, right? Could be going to all the corrupt people, bad guys. They're not building schools and hospitals. They're buying guns and then killing innocent people and whatever. So how do we stop it from going into the hands? So this is why we came up with a standard. What happened is not very good. What happened is some people were doing right things, but a lot of people are saying, oh, now I got to do PCI or got to do Sarbanes-Oxley. So they're saying, okay, tick boxes, checklist. But checklist doesn't work. So the rules are very important that the government comes up with some compliance standards, right? But the oversight of that and the implementation of that has to be risk-based. In other words, there's risk. It's about principles, right? Because risk will change. We know why we are doing it, but the what is changing every day, right? We have to stay on top. So what happens here is, number one, let's say government comes out with policy. The policy has to be reasonable. It has to be understood. It has to be implemented properly. Now, if they come up with rules which are so tough, then people will break them. They will actually bypass them. So the regulators have to understand. So let's say they work with the IT industry, people like yourselves, to understand, okay, what are the challenges? But they also understand what are the challenges that other people are having, we are having, the other countries are having, to understand, okay, because remember, there's a very good saying in life that you can learn from others' mistakes. But lifetime is not, you can learn from your mistakes, but lifetime is not enough to learn from your own mistakes. So you better learn from other people's mistakes, right?
That's perfect. But finally, would you please give an advice to our policymakers in regards to cybersecurity?
My advice would be that before you go put a solution, any solution, you take a step back. You get the industry people in the room, like yourselves. If somebody said to me, hey, would you help? I would help, right? To get guys like that in the room with the government's people and saying, all right, let's put on the board. You get together for 2, 3 days, 4 days, whatever, to say, what are the problems, right? So you bring the bank into it, you bring this one into it, and you review that here are the different challenges, the problems that you already know, and things that you don't know but you're worried about. You put it on the board and say, all right, so what do I need to do from two things? From a compliance policy standpoint, so that this policy and this compliance thing we need to develop, we need to change. So that's first part. You know that there is not first part, there are 4 parts and 5 parts, but you do start with one so you can change the behavior, because it's not easy. If I try and tell somebody to climb 100 floors, they look up 100 floors, they know it, they can't do it, right? They will not do it. But if I say, can you get to the 2nd floor? And people will do it. Then from 2nd, I say, okay, we need to go to 5th floor. You start, once you got very strong base, it's easy to improve. So that you start with that, with a clear mindset that you're going to take it further, but you start to change the culture, right? The culture. Now, so by getting people together in the room, understanding the problem and devising a solution, that's an industry solution. It's not government imposing on people. It's not industry imposing. It's a joint